National Electrical Code Section 300.22c exception addresses wiring within heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units located inside plenums. This exception permits wiring without raceways under specific conditions. Firstly, the wiring must be an integral part of the equipment or apparatus the plenum is designed to accommodate. Secondly, the wiring must not be subject to physical damage. Considering this exception, if the motor feeders for the new heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit meet the outlined criteria, they are part of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit equipment and are not exposed to physical damage due to their location within the protected plenum space. The exception may apply. The National Electrical Code places responsibilities on both manufacturers and installers to ensure safe and compliant installations. Manufacturers are permitted to design heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units with wiring installed within plenums without raceways. However, they must adhere to specific requirements. 1. The wiring should be appropriately rated for use in plenums, such as MTW wire, which is generally acceptable. 2. The wiring must be securely supported to prevent damage. 3. The wiring must not pose a fire or electrical hazard. The installer is responsible for ensuring the wiring is installed according to the manufacturer's instructions and in compliance with the National Electrical Code. In the described scenario, the use of a Romex connector to secure the wiring at the motor head is not considered an appropriate method for secure support and does not meet the code requirements. To ensure the installation complies with the National Electrical Code, the wiring should be properly supported throughout its length. Approved methods for secure support include cable ties or wire hangers. These methods provide adequate support and prevent damage to the wiring. For clarity, a plenum is a space used for environmental air. The National Electrical Code has specific regulations for wiring in plenums to prevent the spread of fire and smoke. The exception described allows manufacturers to install wiring within heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units without the need for conduit, provided the wiring meets certain requirements. Always consult the latest edition of the National Electrical Code and local amendments for the most up-to-date information and specific requirements in the jurisdiction. MTW wire is a type of thermoplastic insulated wire commonly used in machine tool wiring and appliance wiring. It is suitable for use in dry and damp locations, and some types are also suitable for wet locations. When selecting wire for use in plenums, it is essential to ensure that the wire is rated for plenum use. This means that the wire has been tested and certified to meet specific fire resistance and low smoke producing requirements. The National Electrical Code specifies the types of wiring methods that are permitted for use in plenums. In general, wiring methods that are permitted for use in plenums must be listed and marked as plenum rated. This means that the wiring method has been tested and certified to meet specific fire resistance and low smoke producing requirements. Some common types of plenum rated wiring methods include plenum rated cables, such as CMP cables, and metal raceways. In some cases, it may be permissible to use non-plenum rated wiring methods in plenums if they are enclosed in a metal raceway. However, this is subject to specific requirements and restrictions. The Romex connector is a type of cable connector commonly used to secure non-metallic sheet cable, such as NMB cable, to an electrical box or enclosure. Romex connectors are not typically approved for use with other types of cables, such as MTW wire. Additionally, Romex connectors are not typically considered an acceptable method for providing secure support for wiring in plenums. When securing wiring in plenums, it is essential to use an approved method that provides adequate support and prevents damage to the wiring. Some common methods for supporting wiring in plenums include cable ties, wire hangers, and cable trays. Cable ties are typically made of nylon or other durable materials and are used to bundle and secure cables together. Wire hangers are used to support cables from overhead structures. Cable trays are used to support large numbers of cables and can be mounted horizontally or vertically. When installing wiring in plenums, it is essential to follow the manufacturer's instructions and all applicable codes and standards. This will help to ensure that the installation is safe and compliant. If there are any questions or concerns, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector. In addition to the requirements outlined in the National Electrical Code, there may be other applicable codes and standards that must be followed when installing wiring in plenums. These may include local building codes, fire codes, and other regulations. It is essential to be aware of and comply with all applicable codes and standards to ensure a safe and compliant installation. The use of improperly supported wiring in plenums can create a safety hazard. If the wiring is not properly supported, it can become damaged or disconnected, which can lead to electrical shock or fire. Additionally, improperly supported wiring can obstruct airflow in the plenum, which can reduce the efficiency of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. It is essential to ensure that all wiring in plenums is properly supported to prevent these hazards. When selecting cable ties for use in plenums, it is essential to choose cable ties that are rated for plenum use. Plenum-rated cable ties are made of materials that are fire-resistant and low smoke-producing. This helps to prevent the spread of fire and smoke in the event of a fire. When installing cable ties, it is important to ensure that they are properly tightened. Over-tightening cable ties can damage the wiring, while under-tightening cable ties can allow the wiring to sag or become disconnected. The correct tension for cable ties will vary depending on the size and type of cable being supported. It is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing cable ties. Wire hangers are another common method for supporting wiring in plenums. Wire hangers are typically made of metal and are designed to support cables from overhead structures. When selecting wire hangers, it is important to choose wire hangers that are rated for the weight of the cable being supported. It is also important to ensure that the wire hangers are properly installed. Wire hangers should be securely attached to the overhead structure and should be spaced appropriately to provide adequate support for the cable. Cable trays are a versatile method for supporting large numbers of cables in plenums. Cable trays can be mounted horizontally or vertically and can be used to support a variety of cable types. When selecting cable trays, it is important to choose cable trays that are rated for the weight of the cables being supported. It is also important to ensure that the cable trays are properly installed. Cable trays should be securely attached to the building structure and should be spaced appropriately to provide adequate support for the cables. In addition to providing support for wiring, cable trays can also provide a pathway for cables to be routed through the plenum. This can help to organize the wiring and make it easier to maintain. When routing cables through cable trays, it is important to ensure that the cables are properly secured to the cable tray. This can be done using cable ties, cable clamps, or other approved methods. It is also important to ensure that the cables are not overcrowded in the cable tray. Overcrowding cables in a cable tray can restrict airflow and can make it difficult to maintain the wiring. When working with electrical wiring, it is essential to always follow safe work practices. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, such as safety glasses and gloves. It also includes energizing the circuit before working on it. Energizing the circuit can help to prevent electrical shock. Before working on any electrical wiring, it is essential to verify that the circuit is de-energized. This can be done using a voltage tester. A voltage tester is a device that is used to detect the presence of voltage in a circuit. If the voltage tester indicates that there is voltage present in the circuit, do not work on the wiring. Instead, contact a qualified electrician to de-energize the circuit. When working with electrical wiring, it is also important to avoid working in wet or damp conditions. Water is a conductor of electricity, and working in wet or damp conditions can increase the risk of electrical shock. If it is necessary to work in wet or damp conditions, take extra precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. This may include wearing rubber gloves and boots. In addition to following safe work practices, it is also important to be aware of the potential hazards associated with working with electrical wiring. Some of the potential hazards include electrical shock, arc flash, and explosions. Electrical shock can occur when a person comes into contact with a live electrical conductor. Arc flash is a dangerous electrical explosion that can occur when there is a short circuit in an electrical system. Explosions can occur when flammable materials are ignited by an electrical spark. By being aware of these potential hazards and following safe work practices, one can reduce the risk of injury when working with electrical wiring. When working with electrical wiring in plenums, it is essential to be aware of the specific requirements and regulations that apply to these spaces. Plenums are often used to circulate air throughout a building, and the wiring in these spaces must be installed in a way that does not create a fire hazard or obstruct airflow. By following the National Electrical Code and other applicable codes and standards, and by using proper installation techniques, one can ensure that the wiring in plenums is safe and compliant. Remember to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector if there are any questions or concerns about installing wiring in plenums. They can provide valuable guidance and help to ensure that the installation is done correctly.